Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. As always, 6 albums to go through, so I'm going to go through the 6 albums now. That is how this works, and that's how it always works, except for days when it doesn't. We begin with Armine and his album titled 13 Months of Sunshine. Armine is a rapper, I believe. Yeah, from Portland, I have written here. And I gave this the grade of a C. I did have to move my camera down to see what I gave it. So, I feel like my main issue is the wasted potential with this one because it's supposed to be like about Almine's relationship with his Ethiopian father and the journey of like his growth, but yeah, while that's good in concept, most of the writing is just braggadocious bollocks, and I'm just like, why? I'm also not super huge on the production. It feels really constrictive, and a lot of the sound design feels like it's being drowned, and there's not really a lot of chances to breathe with the album. There are some solid guest spots. I guess I'd probably give my highlight to Waxahachie on history. In fact, I'd probably give my highlight performance to most of the guest spots because it doesn't really feel like Omne's trying. It feels like he's just sort of lazily going through the motions for the most part. This is my first album by him as well. It's his third, like full length one. So, I don't really know. Like, I expected a bit more from like a solo auto rapper, but I guess that's just me. Pacing doesn't really go anywhere, and a lot of the songs really should have been cut. There's like 16 songs, and it's 48 minutes, 14 seconds, and at least 4 of the songs should have just not made it because it feels so unnecessarily padded. And I cannot remember anything about the beats for this album. I think there was maybe some like house and trap, house and dance elements added, but they didn't really fit in well. So the same problem I had with Brat by Charlie XCX, like an unnecessary element that could have been worked in better. But I think it's just the wasted potential of the concept of this one because, as Michael by Killer Mike demonstrated, excuse my hair, you can write a great concept album about your relationship with a parent or relative and turn it into something actually captivating and really well written and well performed. And Harmony just doesn't do that at all. It just feels so phoned in and like dragged out and blah. It's one of those like blah albums. Next we have Arm's Length. That was a really bad visual pun. With their new album, There's a Whole World Out There. This is a sort of pop punk emo band from Quinte, West Ontario, Canada. I'm giving this one an A+. I really fucking like this one. So let's start with the lyricism. I like the themes of self-doubt and anxiety, and there's some really great writing, and like the honesty and emotion behind it is fucking top notch. That goes for the songwriting as well. There's some great instrumentation here. I love how crunchy it feels, and there's really good like sort of hardcore elements added. But I like how it mixes the heavier hardcore leaning riffs with the lighter pop punk stuff and meshes well with the emo trappings. It's just really well played out, really well thought out too. It's a very intelligent album for a style that you don't really think of as being that smart usually. Band performances are great as well. I'm not really going to give a standout. I mean, I do sort of highlight singer guitarist Alan Steinberg, as his delivery is great, but everyone here is fantastic. I also really like the production. It's a really tight mix, but also feels very breezy and highlights the sound in some really good ways, and the structuring is really good too. It adds in all of these great elements and pays close attention to the sort of concept around the album, and I love how each song feels, and it's got a really good flow to it as well, just honestly. Really good shit. I don't know if this will be a top 30 contender, but it's probably up there for one of the best emo albums of the year so far, personally, so give it a spin. Next, we have the obligatory debut of the episode. We have Blood Monolith and their first album, The Calling of Fire. This is some death metal stuff from Washington. Not a part of the states I know for death metal. I usually know Washington for more of its grunge and punk scenes. But I'm giving this one a B+. I feel like, yeah, I did have to again look for the grade. I did enjoy some moments with this. I thought the instrumentation was really good. I think this album is a really good example of if you just want something that's really good, heavy, almost grindcore leaning death metal. It's a very short album too, at 27 minutes 36 seconds. It's not going to take up a lot of your time. The instrumentation is really good, and again, really heavy. And I like the sort of sludgy elements it adds at times. I do wish that was something they leaned into more. Not super big on lyrics though, because it's the same death metal debut band bullshit of like nihilism, the world's terrible, gross descriptions of vomit and bleeding and shit and piss. It sounds like I'm making up each time I say it, but there's lyrics on the fucking Metallum page for this shit. It's all there. like, not all debuting death metal bands have to do that. You know that, right? Debuting death metal bands, you know you don't have to gross me out with the lyrics, because they're a thing I pay attention to. Right? You know you can make a concept around them and a story. Like, Ingested have been doing that for years now. You know you can do that. Right? You know that's the thing you can do. Just offering it up to you. I will admit I quite like the production as well. It's a really good mix, and I was kind of surprised by how organic it felt. And it was produced by the band's lead singer Shelby Lermo. He does a really good job with that. I think he's probably the best. Well, I was going to say he's the best member of the band. He's a really good frontman, and the performances are my favourite thing about the album. But his drummer Aidan Tidings Lynch, who absolutely kills it for his work on the kit. He's so good on that. And I like the structuring. I wanted a couple more songs maybe because there's only 8 on the album, and I wanted more chance to explore the sounds that could have been on there because there's a really unique mix of styles. But it is the unique mix and just the heavy and strongness, the heaviness, the heaviness and the strength of the main riffs that really carry the album. So yeah, overall just a really solid bit of death metal and a debuting one. And a really good example of like a band showing some of their potential but not giving everything away instantly. And I hope this band leans into something a bit more for the next one, which I hope is quite soon, because this is about only 2 years into their career, which is kind of insane. So yeah, I wish them the best, honestly. Next we have Bury Tomorrow with their new album Will You Haunt Me With That Same Patience, which I used to think was called Well You'll Still Haunt Me With That Same Patience. Turns out there wasn't a still in there at all, and I said it wrong last week. I'm giving it a B. I think my main issue with this is it sounds like a Bury Tomorrow album. It doesn't sound like one of their better ones. It's still solid, but it doesn't have a patch on the Seventh Son, and I'm sorry, I don't think they will ever touch anything as good as Earthbound, which was 9 years ago now. Jesus on a pole. But I thought it had some really good stuff for the most part. I like the performances. You know, Danny Winterbates is still a really good vocalist, and his screams are as solid as ever. I do like the production as well. There's a very smooth mix, and, you know, I think I wanted a bit less sanding off and a bit more roughness to the sound, but for what it is, it's got some good design, some good design to the sound especially. I do sort of, I wanted to like the lyrics a little bit more. There's sort of themes of mental health and hope, but the writing doesn't always consistently match with it. And I feel like the same can go with the pacing. Like, I don't mind the more melodic take, but it doesn't really feel like it... Okay, it feels like it could have gone to a lot more places than it does go. You know, and I feel like... I don't want this band to just be heavy all the time, but I want them to use the melodic parts, which they're so good at as well, in a much more consistent way, and it doesn't really feel that consistent here. And again, I quite like the instrumentation, especially the guitar work. There's a good mix of like the heavier sounds and the lighter sounds, which the band have always done and mesh well together. I just think that they could have taken this into a few more directions. It can feel like a tad like generic in some places, but you know, they're a really good band. I think it's just because I have a soft spot for Bury Tomorrow. Might be part of it, but yeah, I do think this could have gone to more places than it goes. Next up, we have Ezra Furman with their new album, Goodbye Smallhead. Now, even though I'm using the phrase there, this is not a band, this is a solo artist who uses they, she pronouns. I'm sticking to they because woke. I'm giving this one an A+, pretty much entirely across the board. I was completely blown away by this one. And do you know the crazy thing that I found out while looking into Ezra Furman? I thought, oh, this is some new fancy indie head auteur artist, you know, someone I'm probably going to get really sick of. This is their 10th album. I think it's like their 4th or 5th solo one, but they've been with a band, they used to be with a band like when they first started, and the first album came out in like 2007. And by the way, Ezra Furman, not even 39 yet. Not going to be 39 for another few months. The songwriting is absolutely incredible. There's fantastic indie stuff and like art pop and these great elements of blues and prog and jazz, and it all works well. And I like the fact that Ezra calls it orchestral emo prog rock, which is probably the best descriptor for it, and all the instrumentation of that works so well together. There's no song that doesn't stand out as a result. And I'll give you a good example of how good the structuring is, right? My favourite song on the album is the last song, which is a cover titled I Need the Angel, originally by an artist named Alex Walton. So not only did it bring attention to what a good cover could sound like, but also it made me listen to Alex Walton for the first time. So if you want to go check them out as well, I highly recommend it. They're pretty good. I also love the lyrical theme for this one. There's a really good concept where each song talks about losing different kinds of control. Some go in much darker directions with the lyrics, but they're things that work for it. And it's such a well realised theme, too. I love how it covers topics like assault and addiction and mental health issues as well. And the way it goes about it and ties it to the theme is fantastic. I've basically said the same thing like 4 fucking times in a row. So let's talk about it as just performance. Just love it. I just love it. I think their vocals are incredible. I know that they were born assigned male and then later I think they transitioned fully to being female. I could be completely off about that. But they have this like unique sort of gravelly, bluesy voice to them, which you don't hear on a lot of women in indie rock. And it sounds fucking phenomenal when Ezra does it. It just sounds really great. So yeah, production fantastic as well. Love the layering, love the detailing. Produced by Brian Deck, he does a really good job. And yeah, I like how it keeps things raw, but adds enough to keep things polished. Very delicate balance and very difficult to get right. And I feel like most things on this album would have been difficult to get right. It's an album that takes a shit ton of risks, and all of them pay off. So yeah, huge recommend. I really love this one. And to close it off, we have a band called Friendship with their new album Caveman Wakes Up. This is a sort of indie rock band from Philly, and I'm going to give this one a B-. I thought it had some solid enough stuff. I think this album has the same problem that Harmonies does, though, in that it kind of picks one mode and doesn't move fast particularly. It kind of meanders on occasion. I do like the lyrical theme of exploring mundane life and trying to search for meaning. I did kind of want it to be more serious, but I think it works well, and I like the sort of almost Spanish love songs-esque honesty in the writing. I just think it could have been like written slightly better, but you know, I think the theme's good enough for what it is. I do think again the structuring, as much as I like the vibe behind it, it sets it early. It doesn't really again veer outside of its comfort zone too much, and much like with Harmony's album, I've heard that this one's divided a fair few people as well. And, you know, a lot of people think it's not as exciting as that last one, but this was my first album by these guys, so I don't really have a lot to go off of. I do think the performances are the best thing about it, and lead singer slash guitarist Dan Riggins is a really good frontman with a nice drawl to his delivery, which I quite enjoyed personally. I do think the production does a decent enough job, and the mix is fairly dense, but it doesn't do a lot to change things up, and I think the same could sort of be said about the instrumentation. I mean, there's some really good guitar bits here and there, and I do like the usage of string instruments, but goddamn, I wanted more of it. I wanted it to feel a bit more, like, epic than it wound up being. It feels a bit simplistic and doesn't always use that simplicity in the best way, but it's not offensive at all, and I found it, like, weirdly charming. The band do try and sell it quite well, and this is still a band early into their career. This is their 5th album, so yeah, I recommend it if you just want something a bit laid back and something you don't really have to think too hard about after it's over. Next is favourite album cover and favourite song. I'd have to give favourite song to Morning Person from Arm's Length's album There's a Whole World Out There. I did almost give it to I Need the Angel, but I think the only thing that's docking points from that is the fact that it's a cover and Morning Person is an original song, but it, you know, I still really like both. You could call it a tie between the two, but I think Morning Person, for it being actually an original song and a really great closer, yeah, I'd probably go with that. Favourite album cover goes to Friendship with Caveman Wakes Up. I like the smudge painting look, and I like the details in the background, and also, you know, the fact that you can't really see, like, the main people's faces on the front, but, like, you can make them out just enough. It looks a bit like a blurry dream. I kind of like how it's played out. Next, we have next week's listening list. As always, this is subject to change, but, you know, it could still be more or less the same. I don't know. But we have Age of Apocalypse with In Oblivion, Flurry with Sounds Like, Lastima with A Pain Bloom From My Lungs, Midnight with Steel, Rust and Disgust, Abung Jaya with Paradise Now, and Rich Brian with Where Is My Head. And that'll about do it. Next thing I'll see you for will be tomorrow, the halfway show leading up to here to the moment, and now for my shameless plug. So if you have men's tag teams, women's tag teams, men's single stars, women's single stars, to available for me to get for when I switch to K25 fully, then please get them in on like here on like Twitter DMs or whatever. Well, even though I only post these videos on my real human Twitter, not my core account Twitter. But if you have any of the things I just mentioned, right for 2K25 on current gen consoles, it still annoys me that that's a thing, but it's the world we live in, I'm afraid. Then yeah, get them into me because I need more people still, and yeah, any help is much appreciated. So yeah, that'll be it. Again, reminder: 15th of June at the absolute fucking latest. But I'll see you all tomorrow. I'm hoping. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.